Welcome to the part 4 of chapter 5, Modern Indian History Lecture Series, Bipin Chandra. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about social and cultural policy. So, at that time, in the British, the Industrial Revolution and the scientific thoughts were emerging at that time. Okay, so it was like rational thinking was emerging at that time, and similarly that started to impact India as well. So in that during that period, modernization and industrialization was emerging at the peak. So similar kind of impact used to be happening to the India. So what were the impacts? What we are going to see? Those things we are going to discuss in this section. Moving to the lecture, I will request you to please go through this video till the end so that you will have a complete picture of it. Okay. So till 1813, British followed a policy of non-interference in the religious, social, and cultural life of the country. Okay. But after 1830, they took active steps to transform the Indian society and culture. So, what was the reason behind it? Why they started to after that only they started to hit the Indian culture? Okay, what was the reason behind it? So, what they thought like during their period, the rational thought was emerging. Okay, rational thought was emerging. Modernization was coming. So, instead of making those implementation to the India, they have to make certain changes. Okay, and due to the certain changes at the time, too much religious activities, superstitious thoughts were present into the India. So they started to introduce those things in India, but at the end we will see that when they started to emerge those rational thinking in the India, the educated people started to understand that British are exploiting us. So instead of that, they started to those Indian people, when they learned that British are exploiting them, they started to raise voice against them. So British understood like introducing of such rational thoughts into India is going against them, against their own wish, against their own interest. So at the end, they will stop those rational transferring of thoughts to the India, and they will start to encourage casteism and discrimination and all. Okay, so that's how British progress, because British will will implement those thoughts with a good mind, but at the end when they see that these implementation is going to against their wish and against their business interest, they stopped those implementation and started to encourage more casteism, more discrimination, and other stuff, more religious activities and all. Okay, so what was that? So after 1830, they took the active steps to transform the Indian society and culture. So further, the industrial revolution in the mid 18th century were also fast changing in the British society. What fast changes was there? Machinery was being implemented at the time. Most of the things were done by the machinery. People started to migrate from the rural areas to the urban centers. Urban areas were full of smokes and all. There were like people working in the shifts. Jobs opportunity were there, so people the agriculture activities uh, put into the limitations, and people find another employment opportunity into the urban center. So that kind of development and modernization were happening during that period. So rising industrial interest wanted to make India a big market for their goods, as the industrialization was was happening in the England. So they wanted to make India as a dumping ground for them, where they will dump their all the produced goods into the India. Okay, so rising industrial interest wanted to make India a big market for their goods. So this required modernization of Indian society as well. Let us suppose they have prepared a coat and jackets, and they want to sell those coats and jackets in the India, but in the India they don't wear it. They used to wear let us suppose kurtas and old traditional clothes. So to make them wearable, they have to change the mindset of those people. They have to make modernized thinking to the people. So it is just an example. So that kind of modernization was required into the India for the acceptance of those goods that are being produced in the England as a form of industrialization. So this required modernization of Indian society. So all over Europe, new attitudes of mind, manners, and the morals were appearing. So there were more thinkers were emerging at that time. Durkheim emerged, and other Karl Marx and all were emerging at the time. So their thoughts were also started to impact the Indian people. And when they started to ask the rational question to the British, they started to stop stop those thinking. What I'm trying to say, let us suppose right to equality they implemented, okay, but right to equality was not provided to the Indian people. They started to discriminate Indian people in the different manner, and start to take the cases of the British people with the different judges sessions and all. So that kind of discrimination was there. So people started to raise question, why you are discriminating against us? We have right, we should have a right to equality. So that kind of rational thinking was harming the British interest. So the Great French Revolution of 1789, with its message of liberty, equality, and fraternity, generated powerful democratic sentiments and unleashed the force of modern nationalism with the people of India. At some extent, it was felt by the government as well. So it is just a sarcasm kind of things that the England was that Britain was going with the democratic stuff, and they have a colonial states all over the world, in which India was one of the part of that. Okay, and they wanted, and they were fighting for the democracy, and they are practicing colonialism in the other world. What was the reason behind that? The practicing the colonialism in the other world. So the reason behind that, they think that they are superior. They are superior to the other people of the country. Let us suppose brown people of the country, like brown and black people of the Africa, the brown people of the Indian. So the red skin of the Indians, they used to think that we are superior to them, we are more developed to them, and we have to make them teach. Okay, so that was the superiority kind of mindset uh, made them to like that we have a responsibility to make these people work in that manner. Okay, but it's not the case. As we know, like in the coming session, we'll see that those things will attack themselves in the coming chapters. Okay, so what were the characteristics of the new thought emerging were at the time? So rationalism, or faith in reason and science. Science thought was emerging. Okay, so the question, why earth is rotating in a elliptical manner? What is the reason behind it? Why uh, during the day sun is there, during the night moon is there? So that kind of rational thinking questions, reasons were emerging at the time. Science was emerging at the time. So only that was true which was in conformity with the human reason and capable of being tested in practice. That's what during this period we'll see that a new subject will started to emerge, that will called as a sociology. And that's why we'll see a certain section where sociologists will compare the science with sociology. And so what's like in the science we can do experiment, right? We can do testing in the labs and all. Similarly, sociologists try to compare sociology as a science as well, where they wanted to do experiment like the society, do certain kind of experiment with the society, with the people of the society. So that kind of rational thinking was emerging at the time, and we'll see that sociology, another aspect of the science, emerged during that period, and still we are studying it. Okay, so humanism or love of man. Every human being was an end in himself and should be respected and prized. No man had a right to look upon another. Human beings are mere agent of his own happiness. Their humanistic outlook gave birth to the doctrine of individualism, liberalism, and socialism. Okay, so these were doctrines. So what are these doctrines? We'll see. We'll see just. We'll see here. Okay, so confidence in capacity of man to progress. So it is like man should have these thoughts were like the individual people should have their own right. People have should have their own right to take their own actions in a rational manner. It is not like that they should follow blindly uh, to the law that has been given by the government, and also that kind of things, reasons and questions were emerging. So confidence should be there in the capacity in the own people mindset. According to the doctrine of progress, all societies must change with time. Nothing was or could be the static. Society changes. In the in the pre in the starting period, it was like people were nomadic. After that, they started to do farmings and all. They started to, then after they started to build their they started to build their own society, and after that, now industrialization kind of thing. So these are kept changing over the period of time, and people have to adjust with it. So that's something called a doctrine of progress. Over the period of time, there will be a changes happening, there will be changes happening, and people have to adjust with it. So that's where society terms will come. Okay, so that's something called as a doctrine of progress. You have to be comfortable, you have to be adjusted as per the progress happening, as per the changes happening, as per the modernization will going to happen. You have to adjust with that. So, moreover, man had the capacity to remodel nature and society on the rational and the justice line. So, man have the capacity. Man means like human beings. Human beings have the capacity to remodel nature and society on the rational and the justice line. And there is one section, like in this line, you can see the man. Man is denoting what? Man is denoting human being here, and that's what here feminism questions will raise, like why everywhere in the textbook this man is dominating over the society, patriarchal society kind of thing. So that kind of rational thinking you will study in the sociology subject. Okay, where even in the textbook, denoting the human being is denoted as a man, not as a woman. Okay, so that kind of things you will study in the sociology concept. By 1800, conservative attitude was fast giving way to new attitude, which was sharply critical of Indian society and culture. So Indian civilization was condemned as a static. Even today, if you see, people will say our religion, we are following from that decade. We don't want changes. We don't want you to play with our religion, with our culture. You don't have any right to change our religions or the culture. So that kind of mindset was there, and people used to look those things as a lower status kind of thing. So Indian civilization was condemned as a static one. It was looked upon with the contempt, uncivilized, unscientific, and corrupt institutions, such as the practices of sati, such as punishments given where the tearing of limbs was practiced as per the Sharia laws and all. So they are incapable of improvement, and they used to justify the enslavement of Indians. Thus, they should remain permanently under the British tutelage. So that's what they were telling, that they are not going to be changes. They are not going to change. They are too much. We are more superior to them, and they are not going to change. We have to teach them how to live. What is the rational thinking, and also the British took themselves as a responsibility to change the Indians. Okay, so, however, a few English, like somewhere against that we can't change them. So we have to treat those treat we have to treat those Indian people or the African people as a slave mindset. But few Britishers came as a radical mindset, because there is no one in the world who can't be changed. If we make them aware of the rational thinking, logical thinking, they would be able to know what is right and what is wrong. Okay, and that's a great example where sati was being practiced from a large decade, and now it's totally banned. And nowhere it is practiced. So, however, a few Englishmen known as radicals went beyond this narrow criticism. This narrow criticism that British that they justified the incapability of Indians and all, imperialistic outlook, and applied the advanced humanistic and rational thought of West to the Indian situation. So they started to make those rational thinking, implementing those rational thinking in the Indian society. few Britishers took it as the responsible one, and they started to implement those things in the Indian society. First, doctrine was doctrine of reason. What is doctrine of reason? It led them to believe that India need not always be fallen country, for all societies had the capacity to improve by the following dictates of the reason and the science. That's true, 100% true. If you make them someone realize, if you make someone give the reasons behind anything's happening, and if they are capable to understand, if anyone is capable to understand, if you make them to understand why this is happening, okay, they will understand and they will make changes. So that's something called doctrine of reason, that you have to give reason why this is happening, why it should not happen in that manner. Okay, so that is something called doctrine of reason. Then doctrine of humanism led them to desire the improvement of Indian people. Sati practices and all, this is against the humanity. You don't, if you are unable to give a birth to a, you don't life to a person, then you don't have a right to take the life of a person. Okay, so that kind of humanism thoughts were there. So doctrine of humanism, doctrine of progress led them to conviction that the Indians were bound to improve. That over a period of time, changes will be there and people will change. Similarly, Indian society will acquire those changes. Thus, radical thoughts, few but representing the better element of British society, desire to make India part of modern progressive world of science and humanism. Understand? But the ruling elements in British Indian administration continued to be imperialistic and exploitative. Why? What was the reason behind it? Why they were talking so many good things: rational thinking, humanism, reason, doctrine of progress, doctrine of reason, and now they continue to be exploitative in nature. What was the reason behind it, friend? Whatever be the things, whatever is required, at the end they have to do business with India. Okay, if you are making a very good society at the time and they are not earning anything, so there is no point to do those tasks free for another country. Okay, so British administration continued to be imperialistic and exploitative. They would accept new ideas and adopt reformist measures only if, and to the extent that they did not come into the conflict with the commercial interest and political motives, and enabled economic penetration of the India and consolidation of British rule. So at the end, it should be in the interest of British in the economical manner. If it is not in the interest, they will not care about that human. They all will throw all those doctrine into a dustbin. Okay, so modernization of India was to be implemented through broad limits and through exploitation of resources. Latter radicals also did not stand on their thoughts and became into the favor of conservative thought. So the people now, these people, some radical people who came, who started to take responsibility to teach Indians, to make Indians more progressive and more reasonable. They also change into the conservative thoughts as per their interest. The British knew full modernization may go against their interest. Let us suppose if you are making slave as more trained than yourself, so at the end that slave will start to control the master. Okay, similar thoughts. British knew that if we make them more modernized, they will go against their interest. They will start to question why this exploitation is happening with us. Okay, so thus they implemented partial modernization as per their area of interest. In other words, modernization of India was colonial modernization, and they are talking about democracy in Britain, and they are practicing colonial modernization. So colonial modernization means what? They were modernizing those aspects as per their interest only. So in other words, modernization is called modernization. This was encouraged by Christian missionaries and religious minded persons because they wanted to change some religious practices and all to increase their Christian missionaries. They wanted to spread Christianity in India, thus supported critical attitudes towards Indian society, but on religious ground. They passionately believed that Christianity alone was the true religion. They thought they were like, by core, they used to believe that Christianity is the only religion. This is the truth of the world. Okay, no Hindus, no Muslims, no Islamics, nothing. Christianity is the true religion only, and thus they wanted to spread those religion to the world, and make them to live as per their wish, because they used to think that we are superior to them. Okay. So as they assumed that Western knowledge would destroy people's faith in their own religion and led them to welcome Christianity. Later, radicals, having thought to push up Indians from sick of caste prejudice and other social evils, supported by Raja Ram Mohan Rai and other like-minded Indians. Okay, so there is no issue. Those practices like sati and other aspects were obviously that was the cruel one, that's against humanity, and these were stopped. But more radical people were emerging. They were learning those things, and they started to raise questions against whom? Against Britishers. Now Britishers used to test that these people are now questioning why you are in our country, why you are exploiting us, why you are not giving true equality. Now Britishers understand that okay, these things are going against us. So now we should again force increase of caste discrimination. So they started to support these things again after that, as they used to say, when they came to realize that these radical thinking are going against them. Okay, so further British believe that the fully modernization and interference in the Indian religion beliefs and social custom might produce a revolutionary action among the people, so they wanted to be a side of it. That's also one true thing, that Indian people do not want to touch their religion, and even today they are too much sensitive with their religious practices. So as a matter of fact, the policy of hesitant and weak modernization was gradually abandoned after 1858, as Indians proved apt pupils shifted rapidly toward the modernization of the Indian society and assertion of the culture, and demanded to be ruled in accordance with the modern principles of liberty, equality, and nationality that was going during that period of the Russia and all. So the now Indian people, rational people, started to ask questions on the basis of liberty, equality, and nationality, and that was going against the interest of the British. Thus, British increasingly withdrew their support from reformers and gradually came to a side with the socially orthodox and conservative elements of the society. And they started to encourage those casteism communalism that just now I have discussed. As Indians' response was no objectionable to the changes made by the British, thus it proved beneficial for the Britishers, and hence they started to mix with the Indians' existed traditional thoughts, and they do not want those people to come uplift from those mindset, because people were learning more, and they were uh, becoming superior to because they started to raise questions to them. Let us suppose you are a teacher. Okay, you are a merely a teacher, and you are teaching a student A, and after that teaching, through your teaching, this student is going to become a big officer in future. So what is happening, this student A is going to be a senior to you, more powerful than you. That thing a Britisher does not want. You are down to me. I am a superior to you, and I will be a superior to you. Okay. So thus they stopped those radical thinkings and all to the Indus, and they started to support religious stuffs and castes discriminations and all. In the next lecture we'll end this chapter. Okay, I hope you have liked this video. Please like and subscribe. This is a new channel, we really need your support. If you have any doubts, please feel free to post your doubts in the comment section or on my Twitter handle. Thank you.